Everything you see here is going to be mounted on this cage.
Even though the cage you're seeing is for the Panasonic G9, I just want to put an emphasis that all this knowledge applies to all types of mirrorless cameras. And I'll also be releasing a full review of the Sony a7C's SmallRig cage, so definitely hit the subscribe button if you're interested in that specific item.
Now, I watch some videos and some people say that cages are kind of like a very superficial thing, something to look cool when you go on Instagram and you post about your cage. In some cases, some people even accuse cages of not being practical. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about all the accessories that I purchased and tell you whether or not I think it was worth such a large investment. I'm also going to cover each unique item in great detail so you get a sense of why I chose this specific piece. Because when I go on this company, the company that created all these little accessories and the cage, SmallRig, there were so many options, and to be honest, someone who's new to this, it's quite intimidating to see all these types of options. So you definitely need some help in choosing the right thing, because what it might end up happening is you might purchase something and then you find out, oh, maybe I want this instead because there's more versatility in it. So I'm just trying to avoid you having to do many refunds, many returns. So hopefully this video gives you an idea of what you can do and what type of customization you want. I also want to cover one of my favorite new accessories, and it's actually a battery. This is a really cool battery, and I think it deserves its own video review of it, but we're going to cover it in this video, so definitely stay tuned for that. So let's talk about my inspiration for investing in a cage system. So I've been filming a lot, I've been doing YouTube's videos because of the lockdown, there's not much else to do, and there's a lot of repetition, and there's a lot of setup and tearing down of my setup every day when I want to do a shoot. And what really sucks is that sometimes when you're just using the standard cold shoe mount, like this here, and you're mounting a very heavy light or something like that, it can easily fall off. These cold shoe mounts are the bane of my existence. They're extremely finicky. And worst of all, when I was using my Manfrotto tripod, this would always start getting loose. So not only am I going to cover the cages, I'm going to cover some really important accessories that you might want to get, such as the Arca Swiss mount. So the number one thing I was looking for when building a cage was to add more security. And I recently got this new camera, the Panasonic G9, and this is something that I definitely don't want to drop. I also don't want to drop like a heavy light, for example. So I want something that is very secure. And also, I also want to avoid the hindrance of having to set up all these devices and having to manually put them together or screw things together. There was always a lot of friction to make videos, and I really wanted to build something that would avoid all the friction and just make it more streamlined and more fun to actually film videos day to day. Now, spoiler alert, I have to say the cage was a fantastic investment. It delivered on all the promises that I hoped for, and I really wish that someone had told me earlier in my career, I had no one mentoring me on making these videos, that investing in a cage system would have been a much better investment than, for example, buying a new camera. I recently upgraded from the Panasonic G85, and then I got this camera, and I think buying a cage system is probably going to be more productive in you kind of creating more movies and having more fun, because using it day to day is going to be a lot more enjoyable. Now, I did watch a video of someone complaining about cages, saying that they're kind of built in vain, they're kind of superficial, it's something that you post on Instagram, for example, and that there are many points of failure. So the security, when you use these type of things, something might actually fall off and you might drop your entire $2,000 system, for example. And I watched that video and I was really concerned after, because maybe he has a point, maybe he's right. But then after setting up my own cage, I was kind of confused at the end. I'm not sure why he had so many points of failure and why he had such a bad experience. Now, are his concerns actually valid? Well, let's find out, and let's talk about each individual piece. Now, like I said before, everyone was meticulously chosen. I spent days researching all the different type of combinations for my specific setup. Your setup might be different. Maybe you don't film indoors and you do YouTube videos. Maybe you do more like run and gun outdoors. So things might vary differently. However, most importantly, I was trying to optimize of not having to screw things. I wanted everything to be you can easily take it off, put it back on, so that if you have to tear down your whole cage, it can be done in less than 2 minutes. And for each item that I list, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can have a look yourself. And I'll also leave the special SmallRig code, because there are a million different types of combinations and permutations of all these types of accessories. So it's really important that you get the specific code. So the first thing I want to talk about is the actual cage. And this cage is actually really amazing. I didn't do any modifications except add this shoe mount. Now, the first thing you'll see is that there's a NATO rail on both sides. And this is a really nifty type of thing where you can actually just bolt on things and then tighten it with a screw. We'll talk about the actual handle that I put on here. But typically you're going to mount handles. And what's really awesome is that this is actually an Arca Swiss mount. So what you can do is you can actually just clamp it on here, and it's really easy to take it off. So this is one of the main selling points, and probably the reason why I kept my Panasonic G9 was to have a cage that had an Arca Swiss mount, because you're going to be taking off your camera on and off putting on different types of tripods and maybe taking it off. This makes it so much easier because you don't have to have a plate on all the time. It stays stable all the time. And what I really like about this is that there is actual key here, so you can tighten it all the time. So this is a very handy magnet tool, and honestly, it's a lifesaver. I've never had this twist off and kind of like get loose during a production shoot. This is a really nice thing because what was really annoying when I was using the Manfrotto tripod was that it would always become loose. And I guess what contributes this to not twisting off are these little kind of dimples here that prevent the camera from twisting. So this is like an anti-twist. And honestly, this is quite sufficient. But what's really nice is that you can always tighten it, but I've never had to tighten it. And I'm very impressed of how well it stays bolted together. So if you want to continue building this base, you have all these options here. You have 1/4 inch screws and 3/8 screws so that you can mount more accessories and whatnot.
You can even mount another camera on top of your camera if you really wanted to.
Another nice addition to this cage is that there is actually another cold shoe mount. And what's really amazing about this cage is that nothing gets in the way of the battery compartments, the SD card slots, the ports, the HDMI ports, and all that stuff. And we're going to show that when we put the G9 into this cage. And what's funny about this cage is that it doesn't feel heavy at all. And funny enough, something like this handle feels a lot heavier in the hand. So it doesn't really add a lot of bulk, especially if you want to keep this cage on all the time on your camera. And you know what, in terms of the grip, it doesn't really add that much. It adds this little thing right here. So it might be a little bit annoying, but honestly, just keeping it on the cage is probably going to add some more protection in case you'd ever drop your camera. Okay, so let's mount it onto the actual cage. So you can see all the ports are still available. And most importantly, the articulating screen is not obstructed at all. So what I was concerned was that this NATO rail would actually block the articulating screen, but it doesn't, or maybe it does just a little bit. So if you are still going to hold this camera in selfie mode and take pictures of yourself and video, you still get a full articulating screen without any obstruction. And obviously here, SD card compartment and the battery compartment. Everything is easily accessed. Now in terms of the grip, it's still not obstructed. You can still have a really good grip like this. Just have a little bit piece of metal here. In order to reuse the grip on this side and save some money, you probably don't want to buy a rail over here. You probably just want to mount one on this side so you can have some more stability, more gimbal-like performance when having a rail. And we're going to talk about that one just over there. So my next favorite accessory is this very flexible type of handle that can be mounted on any NATO rail. And most importantly, it can be mounted on the right side or left side of the camera. You just need to unscrew these over here, and then that will give you the possibility of mounting it on different orientations. So it's only for the side handle, and this is one of the cheapest ones. It's made of aluminum, so there's no like fancy wood or anything like that to look cooler or whatnot. But in terms of the flexibility, it has lots of holes, lots of mounting points. The cold shoe mount and the RE locating hole mount is also very convenient to have. So all in all, I really like this. I can make it so that when I mount this onto the camera, it's completely level. Everything is flat onto the floor. So this gives me a lot of flexibility, and it's really easy to take it on and off. So we're going to put this one on and we're going to show you what it looks like. So all you need to do is slide it in. Now usually NATO rails have special safety mechanisms, but this one doesn't, so you can easily slip off. However, there is a safety mechanism here. As you can see, I'm able to hold the whole weight of the camera and it's not going to budge, it's not going to come off. So what's really nice is that the downward gravity is pulling this camera down. You're actually going to be saved by this. So your camera isn't going to fall down even if this becomes loose. So most likely you're going to be very secured. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to level this on the ground. So as you can see, it's completely level here, and I just adjusted this over here so that it's always going to be level when I put it on. So all I have to do is tighten it, and it's on really secure. So very secure, it's not going to move anywhere. I've held this with a ton of accessories with just one hand, and it definitely fits. A nice little bonus is that they include a magnetic Allen key, and this is something you're going to see a lot in the higher end type of accessories. This is very handy if you ever want to do on-the-fly adjustments, but I honestly don't need it because the NATO rail makes it very easy to mount, and it's only for the purpose of kind of reorienting it so that you can put it on this side, on the other side of the camera. So moving on to my next favorite accessory, and it's the top handle. And what I really like about this top handle is that it has a cold shoe mount with a special locking mechanism. And there's a little bolt here, you can tighten it so that it doesn't go down, or at least it's not very easy to go down. Now this is a very versatile type of top handle. You can add an extension rod, 15 millimeter in diameter, and you can tighten it so that you can add more extensions. But most importantly is the RE screw, 3/8 screw here. And this gives you the flexibility of being able to mount it on top of the camera or on the side like this. Very easy to mount it on the side over here. Now that's pretty secure. What's really nice is that you don't need any tools. And this is kind of the theme that I want. I don't want any tools, or at least I want tools that are located actually on the actual accessory. And then I can tighten it down for added security. Now, honestly, you probably don't need to tighten it down. It's really secure. It's like really hard to remove it. I'm just trying to get it out. It's really hard. So you're gonna definitely need a tool to maybe remove it, but this is rock solid too. So just like the NATO rail, I was wondering, is the NATO rail a little more secure than the RE locating screw? And I think they're about the same, because honestly, this can hold a lot of weight. And what's really nice about this is now you have a flexible system where you can shoot like this. This gives you really gimbal-like qualities. You can definitely get some smooth tracking shots. And if you really don't want it to be there anymore, you can obviously mount it up here. Now, 99% of the time, it's good to be mounted on top of this camera. So let's remove it. So just give one little tight there. 99% of the time, it's going to be on top of this. Give it a little secure, little rotation there. And that's on really tight. It's not going to move anywhere. So it's very, very secure. I just really love these magnetic, just bolts on like that. So this has a lot of accessories. What I really like about this is, like I said before, this anti-slip cold shoe mount. This is the game winner. This is the main reason why I got this. When you mount something like really heavy and you're gonna have a Sony NPF battery, like this big battery right here, you definitely want something secure. This makes it super secure. So I have no problems putting a lot of weight, a very heavy accessory on this. So we're gonna demonstrate that a little bit later. Another thing I want to talk about this specific handle is that I made a mistake. I actually bought a fixed handle because I thought, you know what, I'm always going to have a top handle. So why would I want to buy maybe something that is a little more flexible? Well, maybe in this case, I do want to mount it on this side of the camera for maybe when I do some interesting shots, but most likely it's going to be here. I really bought it for, this anti-cold shoe mount, but I like the way that this is angled. So as you can see here, there's this type of angle here. What's most important is that the viewfinder isn't obstructed. In some cases, you probably want to look at the viewfinder, and it's really nice to be able to look into the viewfinder and not have this thing sticking out, because the other one was kind of like a right angle and it kind of shot out more. That made it really hard to put my eye on the viewfinder. So definitely be considerate of that, especially if you're into photography. Maybe you don't want something that protrudes out so much. Now, some people were complaining, oh, the center balance of this is kind of confusing, and why would you want something that kind of protrudes out? Maybe you want a 90-degree angle. And honestly, it feels very easy to balance. Obviously, one of the main benefits of getting a cage is to mount all these handles, because honestly, being able to manhandle this camera and not have to worry about just holding on this side or using a strap all the time because I don't want to wear the strap, I just feel a lot more secure having more points of contact. Let's say I'm doing something really heavy, maybe I want to pull out the camera from my drawer. This makes it really simple and easy. So these handles, you can grab it like this, like that, you grab it like this still, grab it like this sometime, like this. You don't understand how many times you're going to be handling your camera, and you just want to have a really good grip. So the only caveat to these metal type of handles is that if you shoot outdoors, these can get really cold. And when you touch them, it almost burns. That's how cold they get. So they're not the best, but honestly, if you want to get the more expensive wooden ones, I don't know, because you don't get all the mounting points, you don't get more flexibility. These things here, you may not use them right away, but maybe sometime in the future you have this accessory and you have this unique way of putting it, it's really going to pay off. So I'm going to demonstrate how I use all these mounting points further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the monitor over here. So one thing to note about these cables is that I chose right angle cables. Now this isn't a coiled wire. This is about 45 centimeters. So you probably want to get something around 45 to 50 centimeters. That's going to be long enough so that you can rotate this and not have any excessive tension on the actual cord and on the actual HDMI ports here. So we're going to put this. So you can see I can rotate this and there isn't really too much tension. I mean, there's a little bit of tension there. Now you can buy a clamp for this, but hopefully this doesn't put too much tension on this full HDMI slot. How are we going to power all this stuff? because we're gonna put a light now. This is a really heavy light. The ball mount on this is, this honestly weighs just as much as this entire light here. Now this is a really bright, nifty on-camera LED light. You wanna press down, just clip it in. Now, it's not even secure, but you can see that it's not gonna fall off. I'm gonna put the really large battery here, so you're gonna see how this all fits together. So let's just straighten this out. So tighten this down, at least make that somewhat secure. So everything is quick release, everything is easy to move around. So you probably want to put a shotgun microphone or any type of microphone onto this actual camera cage. And obviously over here, this cold shoe mount, it's not going to be very easy to mount any shotgun mic over here, for example. It's just almost impossible with this monitor. So you can probably have a different solution. Maybe this monitor can be, there's only one mounting point for this monitor. It's only this over here. So it's really not very versatile. You're kind of stuck to have to use the included type of mounting accessory that they provide. In my case, I was able to mount the shotgun mic using this cold shoe. There's actually some 1/4-inch screws on this side. I just screwed on a cold shoe mount. So this microphone doesn't need any fancy locking mechanism because it's not going to move. This is so light. I don't really care if it's going to fall or not. Probably never going to fall off. So I'm obviously using the Rode Wireless Go microphone system right now. So I can't really show you what it would look like, but it would fit perfectly right here. So this is a little nice place to put a little maybe wireless system accessory on that. So moving on, let's talk about this battery. Now this battery is the MVP. I was very impressed with the performance of this battery. One thing that I really like about this battery, a lot of Sony NPF batteries that don't have this, is a simple, is it full or not? And knowing how full the battery is really just amazing because you're probably gonna use this a lot of times. It comes with a USB-A output. I've tested this and I was like, okay, well, what happens if I mount everything, actually put this on the actual light, have a DC out? What is the output? Well, the output is about 8 volts on this side. This is giving, obviously, this is a USB interface. They only use 5 volts, so it's always gonna shoot out 5 volts. And I was getting about kind of 2 amps. So 10 watts out, another 8 volts out of this, and whatever is powering from this. So I was very shocked that this could actually power my whole system. So you might be wondering, why do I have a USB? Well, this is to actually power assist my camera. And my camera, Panasonic G9, is actually able to have a battery feed. Now what happens is that the battery doesn't fully power the entire device. I still need to keep a battery inside this actual camera, but what it does is allow it to run a lot longer so that I don't have to constantly swap out the battery during a shoot. So that's a major convenience. So let's mount that on. Now for the micro USB, I definitely do recommend getting something that is no more than 50 centimeters because that's going to be a little bit too long. This is the cable that was included with the Panasonic G9. I do recommend getting a coiled version so you just have less cables sticking around so it looks less ugly. And okay, so that's my entire setup. I have a very big monitor so I can actually see myself when I'm filming. The LCD screen is on the back, so when I go behind the camera, I can still maneuver through the systems and just use the LCD screen. I have this great light that has really long battery life. I was able to shoot everything powered, you know, the monitor, the light, and power assist the actual camera. And I was able to shoot for more than 2 hours. So everything is powered off just as one battery, which is really convenient and kind of nice to have just one big setup here. And obviously I have my microphone and I have my wireless microphone that would probably be here. And it's just honestly a really great filming setup. I can still hold it with 2 hands, or sometimes I want to assist it, I can carry it with just one hand over here. Anyway, so that's the video on this thing. I have to say it was definitely worth investing in all this. I really like how flexible the system is. I like being able to dismantle it when I don't need it, but usually everything but the battery is going to be mounted on this system, so I don't have to constantly take it on and off. If I want to start shooting, I can just simply mount it on with my Arca Swiss mount that's already on the cage. Just put it on my tripod, hit the record button, and I'm pretty much ready to go. Just got to keep this one battery charged. Now, one caveat is that this thing is going to be constantly falling down because of the weight. So I have a question for you guys. If you know how to use these M2 screws down here and kind of build a system that extends out, I would be really grateful because I haven't found anything that is compatible to build like maybe a rod system that would just put 2 rods out here using these 2 screws. So please let me know in the comments if you find the accessory that would allow me to do that. I'd be forever grateful.
I have an update. I actually found a solution to help balance this entire rig. All I needed to do was attach a SmallRig cheese bar, just a little accessory at the bottom of my left handle. Now everything is super stable, nothing's gonna tip over, and I'm really enjoying this setup. Anyways, that's it for this video. I really hope I helped you make your decision on how to build your SmallRig rig. Let me know in the comments if you decided to build one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.